Okay, now, of all the shows to have won me over this season, little did I expect it was going to be this little runt of a show that just shows up out of nowhere. I did not expect Legends of Tomorrow season one to be my favorite show this season. I did not expect that at all. And the interesting thing about my experience with Legends of Tomorrow, um, at least with this season, I don't know how season two is going to go, but I'm really excited for that one. My experience with this was I got so busy with life during like the middle of the second half of the season. So basically, after winter break, I got so busy with other stuff I had to do that I stopped watching Legends of Tomorrow after like season or episode six. There's 16 episodes per season, or at least for this season. I stopped watching it, and once I got life cleared up a little bit, after I was watching like the Flash and Arrow. I don't know why, because like I think that those two fall below Legends of Tomorrow. Because after I watched episode seven, I was hooked again, and I watched eight right after that. I was hooked even more, and I binge watched Legends of Tomorrow. I binge watched it for the entire day because of how good it was. This show definitely it had. I don't know if it was like a better than Arrow season one type thing, but it had a phenomenal first season, better than the Flash season one in my opinion, better than the Flash. Um, it just it was such a good first season of a show because there wasn't a romantic plot that really took it away. There wasn't like over the top acting. Everyone played their part and just it flowed really well. And I like the way that they explained a lot of the stuff for newbies of the comics who didn't read the comic books. They did a lot of things right. Now, obviously, they're going to do some things wrong, and we'll touch base with the negatives and the positives. But just really solid first season of this show. I was shocked to see how well this show did. I haven't seen the reviews for it because fuck the haters. That's why. I haven't seen like what it got on like Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb or whatever the case is. I have not seen it. I would imagine they're pretty good, and I probably will after this. But right now, I don't care. I want to say what I'm thinking before I get influenced by other people's opinions. So, let's go. So Legends of Tomorrow was set up during the big two-part crossover with The Flash episode 9, episode 8, and Arrow episode 8 of season 2 of Flash and 4 of Arrow. It was a setup. Basically, Vandal Savage is an immortal tyrant, and all these people from both episodes need to stop Vandal Savage, but they couldn't. And now the team is being recruited, and that's how Legends of Tomorrow starts. It's the Flash and Arrow. It's their second crossover, and it's the crossover was okay from what I remember, but the pilot sold me because the pilot of Legends of Tomorrow sold me because of how like it was a plot twist. Because every outside source of the show, like the writers and the producers, they said, obviously the show is called Legends of Tomorrow, and it's basically it's broken down like this. They said that all these characters, including the trailer, they said you guys are not remembered as heroes; you're remembered as legends. And all these characters that, and you're like, this little band of misfits are remembered as legends? Huh, interesting. Okay, that was the selling point. And then the actual show airs for the first time, the first episode, and the twist was, it's not at all. They're not at all legends. They're forgotten. As a matter of fact, most of them are forgotten people. Like the White Canary, Sarah Lance, she's back. She's resurrected in season 4 of Arrow. She's back. Ray Palmer, the Atom's there. Captain Cold, Heat Wave. You got Hawkman and Hawkgirl. And then the new Firestorm, Firestorm 2.0. They're all forgotten people. And then of course you have the main guy, Rip Hunter. I like the guy who played Rip Hunter because he brought to life a very interesting and complex version of the character Rip Hunter from the comic books. From what I remember, Rip Hunter wasn't like a very complex character. He was a time master in the comic books, but he wasn't very complex. This show made him very complex. They gave him layers, like an onion, and that's very good because I loved Rip Hunter in this show because he basically he didn't blackmail, but he tricked every of the every member of the team into coming on to get their title as legends. If they didn't go on this adventure to stop Vandal Savage, they would never be remembered as legends. They would never have saved the world. And then we find out like shortly afterwards that they're never remembered as legends. As a matter of fact, most of them are quite forgotten in history, despite their efforts to save, to do whatever they were doing in their shows, like Sarah Lance and Arrow, as well as the Atom, Ray Palmer, and then Captain Cold and Heatwave and the Flash. Whatever they were doing in their respective shows before they teamed up in Legends of Tomorrow, no matter what, they were forgotten. And that makes for a very interesting start to a season. Basically, all the promos and everything outside of the show has told us that all these characters are remembered as legends. That's set in time. That is not true. They're forgotten. That is awesome. I like that because now they kind of have to earn the title. There's already like a shim in the team. Something's already splitting the team apart, and that is such a good way to start the season. I love that part of it. And so you have that way of starting it. No matter what, though, you find out that the plot of the show, the first season, is stopping Vandal Savage, not just because he will ruin the world, but because he is solely responsible for killing Rip Hunter's wife and son. It's a personal vendetta. Nothing wrong with a personal vendetta story. Look at the movie Deadpool. It's personal vendetta. It's revenge. Great plot device for season 1 of Legends of Tomorrow. Excellent. I loved it. Good shit. And the way that they expressed Vandal Savage's possession of knowledge, like what he knows about who he's going to be in the future, is so interesting throughout the entire season, because we see him like in the correct order of history, but in the order of the episodes of the show. We see him like at first knowing who the team is, and then they go back in time and he has no idea who the team is. And then he finds out that like a bunch of people who he assumes are time travelers, he's guessing because he's had thousands of years to live and experience like all kinds of crazy shit. And he's guessing that they're time travelers, and he finds out who Rip Hunter is, and then they go back into the future, and he remembers that he has a wife and kid, and now he still has it in his head like decades later that I'm going to kill your wife and son whenever I do that, whenever they're born in time. And then they go back in time, and then like part of that is erased from the future, and now they're like in between what was the past and what is going to be the future. It's like, okay, I still remember you have a wife and kid now. It's such an interesting way of expressing what Vandal Savage knows at the time, and they did such a good job with continuity in this show. It's unbelievable. Like they were so good at continuity, like with what Vandal Savage knows, and like how time lapses work. Like for example, in one part of the show, Ray and Kendra, the Atom and Hawkgirl, are stuck in time, and so is Sarah Lance, and there's a whole episode around that. But Ray and Kendra are stuck in like the 1950s for 2 full years, and the team doesn't find them. It's not 2 years that the team has been doing this. Okay, the full team that's been time traveling looking for Vandal Savage has only been doing it for like I think a week or so, or like a couple weeks or a couple days. It's not a whole lot of time, but it's enough time to like it's reasonable as to why the team couldn't find them right away. But in Ray's and Kendra's time, it's been 2 years. Like they have jobs, they have a life, and they're living a life together. And then all of a sudden, 2 years out of nowhere, they come back and pick them up, and then they're back on the team after 2 years. So they've actually aged. They're technically 2 years older than what they were, and that's like they don't mention that, but I'm thinking about it now, and that's such a cool concept to me. But continuity like that. I'm trying to think. Is there any other examples? I'm trying to think here. Hold on one sec. In the finale of the show of the first season, they went back to uh, the part of the pilot for the show where like the whole team is on the rooftop, and then you got like Rip Hunter like giving them the speech, and this is what'll happen if you don't come along to help me stop Vandal Savage. This is what's going to be Central City in whatever year it is. Um, that part of the pilot when Jax Firestorm, I think his name is Jackson, something like that. I don't know, but we'll just call him Jax. He's the black dude who's part of Firestorm, along with Martin Stein. Jax is like he has matured so much. I'm not going to talk too much about characters because it's a team show now. But yeah, we'll go into details in a little bit. But like Jax is so reluctant to join this team, and he like hell no, I just want to be with my mom, and I want to stay here and just be like a loser and a nobody. Um, that's what we see in the pilot, and Martin Stein has to convince him um, to join the team in the pilot episode. But obviously, it doesn't work, and so he drugs him, and then he drags him along with the team, and then he wakes up on the ship. That's what we see in the pilot. In the finale, we see that as Jax walks off from the pilot, Martin Stein chases after him. We see the present day Jax because he was shipped off by like the present day Martin Stein because of like his aging thing. There's a whole thing behind it, but basically, the Jax that we've seen all season long goes back into the present day or what is known as the past. It's very confusing, but Jax goes back. This is like the Jax that we've known the whole time now throughout the show. Goes back and tells the past Martin Stein like what is going to happen and what you need to do to make sure that me, like I'm to make sure that Jax from the past goes onto this ship, and that when I say Jax from the past, I'm saying like the Jax that we're going to see throughout the show, throughout the season of the show. That Jax needs to be convinced or drugged, as he'll say, um, needs to be drugged and brought onto the ship. And basically, Jax, there's some irony to it because Jax from the present, the one that we've seen throughout the show, throughout the season, says, "I'll thank you for it later." And that's like the show is so amazing at doing just that. Is astounding. It's phenomenal. I loved the way that they handled this show. It's incredible. I loved it. I hope they keep it up in the second season. Okay, I'm going to breeze by the characters because there's so many characters to talk about and there's so much I can talk about. And I'm tired of like ranting for 40 minutes per video. It hurts my tongue after a while. So it's going to be very brief this. Hopefully. I'll probably end up ranting anyway, but it's going to be very brief. So you got the main team. Okay, so you have Rip Hunter. I already talked about Rip Hunter. I love his character. He is very complex. He has a motivation. It's personal. It's a revenge story. Nothing wrong with his character. Then you have the main characters. You have pretty much it's seemingly Ray Palmer. Brandon Routh is Ray Palmer. I loved him in Arrow season 3. Season 4, he was seemingly dead, but then they found out. I talked about it in season 3. Season 4, they found out that he shrunk, but it was like a fluke shrink. Like the whole top part of the building exploded, but he didn't die. He shrunk, and he fell down. He fell out of the building, and so he was being held by Damien Dark in season 4 of Arrow. And then they got him, and he's still seemingly dead, and he stays that way. He stays dead to the public so that he can go on this time traveling adventure, so that he hasn't disappeared again. But he's kind of like he's like the humor of the group, and I like that. He's always been the humor of Arrow and of Legends of Tomorrow. He's always got that good charisma about him, and he's always trying to do the right thing. So much so that they even make fun of him, like the criminals, like Heatwave and Captain Cold. They make fun of him for being like such a goody two shoes, and it's really funny how they handle that. Yeah, just always fun to see Ray Palmer on the show. Always a pleasure to see him. And you have Sarah Lance. She was killed throughout the entire season 3, and she is brought back to life somewhere early on in season 4 of Arrow. And she still has this bloodlust about her, and she now has a soul again, so now she's not like this mindless fucking robot. And she kind of is, her bloodlust is kind of explored a little bit more in Legends of Tomorrow season 1. But it's not explored to the point where it's like it's annoying. Like we've already been over this part of it. Just give me more like of the White Canary. It's not like that. It's just we see it, and then there's like a moral dilemma, and then it's kind of like a small side detail that's put aside for the rest of the season, which is nice. That is a good touch to that that whole bloodlust thing. Leave that for Thea Queen in season 4. That's Thea's thing now, is her bloodlust. Sarah had her bloodlust. Enough said about that. I'm done talking about that. Then you have Martin Stein. Martin Stein as well as Jax, because they're basically one character at times, because they have to be partners. They have this interesting dichotomy between the two, in that Jax is like, he's selfish in a way, but he's always like trying to do the right thing while trying to save his own skin at the same time. And then Martin Stein is like, he's very arrogant, he's very full of himself, and that he knows everything and he knows the way out of it. And then he's always trying to do the right thing at the same time. It's a very interesting dichotomy, and I liked their relationship more than I liked Ronnie Raymond's and Martin Stein's relationship, because Ronnie Raymond was kind of like, they kind of agree with each other, I guess, in a way, more so than Jax and Martin did, Martin Stein. So I liked their dichotomy. I liked it more so because as the season went on, it grew, and they started to grow like this mutual trust and respect, and they actually grew to like each other. And then near the end of the season, that's when Martin like sends him off, and he's mad at Martin because he did that. Like he wants to be part of the team, and Martin is nothing without Jax because they're Firestorm. That's just how it is. And their dichotomy is so interestingly unique, and it's I wouldn't say it's unique, but it's likable, and you like their relationship with each other, because they're stuck. It's like they're stuck in the same room all the time, except that they're stuck in the same body a lot of the time whenever they're Firestorm. And yeah, I like those two characters. They're Martin Stein. He was always a good character in my opinion ever since The Flash. And then the new one, Jax Jackson. I think that's his name. I'm not too sure, but Jax. I was iffy on him when he debuted in Flash season 2. I was iffy on him, but then as Legends of Tomorrow came on and I saw him like more and more and more, I grew to like him. Excellent touch to the character Firestorm. So that was a really good job on their part. Now this kind of bums me out because of how much I like them. I loved them since season 1 of The Flash. You got Captain Cold and Heatwave, and they had interesting twists because Captain Cold, he's this lovable criminal, and you love to hate him. That old saying, you love to hate him. Heatwave is he's like psychopathic. He's just a loony. He's a Looney Tune, who's obsessed with fire. And by God, I think they had the biggest changes in character in the show. Period, because they both had Captain Cold pretty much turned into a good guy, and that's what put a wedge in between the duo that is Captain Cold and Heatwave. That's what put a wedge, because Heatwave was always about just stealing. He was always about the payoff. So was Captain Cold, but then Captain Cold, Leonard Snart, always grew. Not always grew. What am I trying to say here? He made friends on the team, and he actually grew to like the team he was working with. And then that pushed Heatwave aside, and that's a very interesting way of dividing two criminals. Is that one like turns good, and the other one acknowledges that he's part of the team, but doesn't like that he's part of the team. That whole thing, and no doubt there was big twists with these two characters, because I'm gonna start going into spoiler territory with these two characters, because they're the two characters that warrant the most spoilers. Heatwave is abandoned by Captain Cold. Captain Cold had a job to kill Heatwave because he basically went rogue on the rest of the team, and so it was Captain Cold's job to put him out and to kill him. He didn't. And because it's a time traveling show, we find out that this bounty hunter named Kronos, he's the second big bad in the show. He's he's kind of this annoying tick that just keeps coming back for the team. And we find out that Kronos is actually Mick Rory. He is Heatwave, and basically he was brainwashed from Heatwave into Kronos, and Kronos has been chasing the team since the very first episode. And in the first episode, Mick Rory was still like this average Heatwave character. But obviously, if Heatwave and Kronos are the same character, then they're two totally different personalities. They may be the same character, but they're two different personalities. And that's because time traveling exists. And so Mick Rory, as regular old Heatwave, was brainwashed and then trained in the way of Kronos and was sent back in time to go after this team. That's how that works. And so basically, the brainwash thing wore off, and so he joined back the team. And now, like, he's Heatwave again, but he has the knowledge of Kronos, and so now he's like this really smart guy, and he's way more developed. And actually, they kind of skipped over a lot of the development of like this Heatwave slash Kronos character, and they may have skipped over him, but it was really well done. And I actually like the way that they kind of like skipped over his development, because now he's a genius, because you can totally buy that he was brainwashed into being like a time master, or at least being a bounty hunter for a time master. So that was a good job on their part. And then you have Captain Cold. Everyone, like I said, everyone loves to hate him, and everyone hated to see him die. They killed Captain Cold in the fucking show, man. Captain Cold was always one of my favorite characters in the CW verse, because he was so over the top. The way that oh, forgive me, I know the actor's name. Hold on, I will not look this up. Just you hold on. What's his name? Fuck. I cheated. I looked it up. Wentworth Miller. I knew the name. I just couldn't think of the name. I knew the name. I just forgot it. Okay. Wentworth Miller made it like this really cheesy, over the top villain, but in a way that's likable. I can see how it's like it's believable in a real world context. And yeah, like I said, I've said it before. It's you love to hate him, and then they go and they kill him. And apparently, I saw this. Their plan from the start was to kill off Captain Cold from the very get-go of this. And Wentworth Miller said something interesting, in that it was never designed for him to have a permanent spot on the Wave Rider, because that's just not who the character was. And I think personally, at the end of Captain Cold's life, I think definitely he would have made a good spot as part of the team. I think he definitely became a hero at the end of his life. Now that was one of the saddest deaths in the CW verse, probably next to Moira Queen. Oh fuck. But yeah, other than that, then you have like Hawkgirl and Hawkman. Nothing like too like fancy and of note with them, other than that Hawkman dies, and like he dies early on in the season, and then he is found brainwashed in time. He's one of Vandal Savage's future soldiers, and they have to like keep him alive because he's brainwashed, and they want him back, and that whole thing. And so by the end, of course, he comes back to the team. He comes back with Hawkgirl, but then those two go away to live their life away, free from Vandal Savage. They are free to live the remainder of their life in peace from Vandal Savage. So that's that. Hawkgirl, I mean, she kind of an average role in my opinion. She didn't like have any standout moments. The only thing I could say about Hawkgirl, in my opinion, is that she was pretty. She's pretty cute. That's all I got. I'm sorry. I wish I had more to say. I don't. But yeah, other than that, you have like some special cameos throughout time. Like the one that comes to mind for me is Jonah Hex. Like you see Jonah Hex, and then you see there might be something from the comic books right before Vandal Savage actually takes power. I can't think of the name, but basically Savage he's raising this kid up to be a dictator, and then Vandal Savage is gonna kill him, so he gains the trust of like some people or something like that. I don't know if that's from the comics, but I don't know where I was going with that. I don't know. I'm losing track here. But yeah, long story short, by the end of the season, we find out that the team's efforts to stop Vandal Savage throughout time has basically all been a lie, because there was something called the Oculus, and basically we find out that Rip Hunter was a former Time Master and he betrayed the Time Masters, and apparently that was all part of the plan. And the Time Masters' excuse or the thing was, everything is it's made in time. It's already set in stone because the Time Masters are controlling everything. Everything is a puppet, and the Time Masters are controlling the strings. Okay, and it's through something called the Oculus, and a lot of people lose, like a lot of the team members lose faith in their ability to stop Savage because they're now a held prisoner. Some are missing, some are dead, some are brainwashed, others are. The team is scattered now throughout time, and you know, everything is messed up and fucked up for the team, and obviously it's not set in time. You know, it's this whole message of like free will near the end, and then we're gonna stop Savage. Fuck the Oculus. The Oculus is basically a machine that controls time and it controls people's actions. And according to the Time Masters, everything that the team has done was set to the Time Masters' will, and that's what the Time Masters wanted them to do. And we find out that's bullshit. Never happened. It never happened. There was some like influence from it, but I don't think that it was ever really a thing. That's actually, I think that was what, I don't remember if that's what Captain Cold actually destroyed when he gave his life, but yeah, that's the Oculus is basically it's a thing that like controls everything about time and space. And so we find out that Savage's plan is to, throughout 3 different periods of time, have meteors that the same meteors that gave Kendra, what was his name? Carter, you know, Hawkgirl, Hawkman, and Vandal Savage, their powers was to have that same meteor throughout 3 different periods of time. He's going to have them activated through Kendra and Carter's blood, okay? And that's going to create like this time paradox, and it's going to send time back. It's going to destroy time back until the first meteor, back in like 1700 BC, was dropped. And from there, he's not going to make the same mistakes. He's going to rule from then on. That's his plan. And at the same time, we find out that those meteors are the same meteors that make Vandal Savage mortal. And so the team has to split up into 3 different parts of the team and kill him at 3 different times, so that never happens. And that was a really cool finale. That was a really cool shot. And yeah, all that said, they kill Vandal Savage. The team isn't really divided, but there's like a few less members on there. So Hawkman and Hawkgirl go away. Okay, Captain Cold's dead. Oh, God rest your soul. And then you're left with the rest of the team, whoever was part of the team originally. And then the show ends on, or the season ends on a really hopeful note, because what was his name? Our Man from the Justice Society goes onto the show, and they reference it as the Justice Society of America. I don't know if it's of America, but I'm pretty sure it's of America. You know how long we have been waiting for this? Fanboys and fangirls around the world who watch the CW have waited so long for a Justice Society TV show, and I think they're going to get this right. I am so hopeful, because they introduced it in a cool way. Like, don't get back on that ship, because if you go in there, you will all die. Because I know, because I'm from the Justice Society, bitch. That's right, I'm cool as fuck. In the end, awesome show, a lot of potential. And I think if this show could be as like, what I liked about this first season is that it may not have been as good as Arrow season 1. That's just my opinion, okay? But with a show as like fantastical as this, we're talking about like time travel and dimensions and like nether zones, or like zones without time influence, all this like fantastical, sciencey, geeky stuff. With a show like that, and as good as it was with the drama and the action and all that fantastical stuff, it was pretty damn good. It was up there with Arrow season 1 in my opinion. And I may be exaggerating when I say this, but I'm actually going to give Legends of Tomorrow season 1, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. I think it really deserves that, because it made like an impossible concept possible. That's what I think it did. And I may have given it a 10 out of 10. I don't think I gave Arrow season 1 a 10 out of 10. I'm not too sure, but I don't think I did. And with that being said, it may not have been my favorite over Arrow season 1, but with how unlikely it was to keep a coherent story flowing with time travel and dimensional travel and all this other stuff, it was pretty damn hard. And I think they did a phenomenal job of bringing that to life. Excellent job with how the writers executed the story of season 1. And so all that having been said, I'm really excited for season 2. And with all that having been said, I'm now all caught up with my CW shows, and now I have to wait until the next seasons come out. And I'm really excited for Flash season 3. I'm hopeful for Arrow season 5, and I'm stoked for Legends of Tomorrow season 2. If that's what it's going to be called. That'd be really cool if they called it Justice Society as a TV show. They renamed it, but that'd be really cool. I'm excited. I can't wait for all the shows to come back. Hopefully, every one of them just sweeps me off my feet, blows my socks off. All these other phrases. I'm really excited. So, as far as these show review goes, for the CW, I will let you guys know. I'm hoping I'll let you guys know on some updates and some thoughts about like trailers, and maybe I'll do like a reaction to some of the footage that I see. So I'll keep you guys updated on that part of it. And as far as this show review goes, these shows, I'll see you guys next time when the seasons come out.